Question 6 part 3 now then asks you to factorise, and you're given this quadratic x squared minus 6x minus 16. We know it's a quadratic because there's a wee 2 up there. X squared tells us that it's a quadratic. Whenever we factorise these, we are using a thing called, forgot my letter N, we're using a thing called PSN. P stands for the product. The product is always the very last number in your quadratic. S stands for the sum, which is your middle number in the quadratic. And then N stands for the numbers. Now, what are the numbers? We're trying to think of two numbers that are going to multiply to give us that product of negative 16. But the same two numbers that we have to think of have to give us the sum of negative 6. So what are my numbers then that will give me a product of 16? What watts are 16? We've got 4 4s, 8 2s and 16 1s. But out of this combination here, there's only one of them combinations that's going to give us a sum of 6, or negative 6 to be more specific. And if you think about that, if I was to add or indeed subtract a 4 and a 4, I'm never going to get a 6. With an 8 and a 2, 8 take away 2, I could get a 6 there. 16 and a 1, I'm never going to get a 6. So my two numbers that I've got to use are definitely going to be that 8 and the 2. So I'm just going to go ahead and put an 8 and a 2 on there. I've got my figures. All I need to work with now is my sign. Think about that sum there now in the middle. I have to land on negative 6. Think of your number line. You have to land on negative 6. You can use an 8 and you can use a 2. You can either have positive or negative 8, and you can add or subtract your 2. To land on a negative 6, you have to be somewhere near there. So I'm going to be at negative 8. And to get from negative 8 to negative 6, I'm going to add on my 2. So that's going to be a negative 8 and that's going to be a plus 2. Another wee tip on here is that whatever your highest digit is, your highest digit will always take the sign of your middle term. My middle term there was negative, so my highest digit had to be negative. That means then if I'm sitting in negative 8 and I have to reach negative 6, because that's my sum, I'm going to add on 2. Here's another one now, look, to try out. X squared plus 8x minus 20. I want to factorise that as well. I need to find then my product. My product is the last number, so that's minus 20. I need to find my sum, that's the middle number, so that's 8, and it's positive this time. So my numbers now, I want to find two numbers that are going to multiply to give me 20, although it has to be negative, and the same two numbers have to sum to give us 8. So we're always going to think about our product. What numbers give us a product of 20? We'll worry about the fact that it's negative in a wee minute. But the two numbers that multiply to give us 20, I could have 10 times 2, and I could have 5 times 4, or 4 times 5, and I could have 20 times 1. Now, out of them possible combinations, which one of them is going to give us a sum of 8? And whenever we're saying sum, we can add or subtract, particularly whenever we've got a negative sign there, we're going to subtract. I could get an 8 from my 10 and my 2. I can never get an 8 out of that, and I can never get an 8 out of that. So I know that I have to use a 10 and a 2. And if I factorise, I have to open up a set of brackets, put an x at the beginning of each bracket. That's coming from my x squared. I know the two numbers that I want to use are 10 and 2. I'll put a 10 on there and a 2 on there. It doesn't matter which bracket you put it into. And then use this wee tip, my high digit. My highest digit between 10 and 2 is 10. My highest digit is going to take the sign of the middle, and this time the middle is positive, so my 10 is going to be positive. How do I get my sum of 8 then? I must use 10, take away 2, so I need a take away sign on there, and that's your factorised answer.